Hanover Lakes is the kind of neighborhood people move into in order to stop worrying. A newer community on the southern edge of St. Cloud, Florida, southeast of Orlando. Fresh sod, wide sidewalks, houses arranged around man-made lakes and canals. Families with young children. The kind of streets where danger is supposed to be somewhere else. On the night of August 24th, 2024, that illusion came apart on Nautel Drive. It started the way the worst calls often do, with a child's voice on a 911 line. One of the children inside the house told a dispatcher that their father was upstairs with a gun and their mother had been shot. While the call was happening, the other child was already moving. As the shots rang out, one of them got the other out of the house into a neighbor's door. 2 kids on the worst night of their lives, doing the one thing that would keep them alive. The adults who were supposed to protect them were the problem. The man upstairs with the gun was their father. His name was Jose Otero-Fontanez, and he lived in that house with his wife, Lizvette Figueroa-Guzman, who was 48, and their 2 children, a grown daughter and a young son. From the street, it looked like any other house on the block. But according to what his own daughter would tell investigators, the thing that detonated that night was building for a long time. She told the police that her father had convinced himself that Lizvette was cheating on him. This, of course, was not true. But this type of suspicion doesn't need proof. It grows on its own. And as it grew, it turned into something colder and more desperate. She said that he'd been hiding recording devices around the house, wiring his own home to catch a betrayal that wasn't happening, listening to his wife, watching her, building a case in his head for a crime she hadn't committed. But on the night of August 24th, that private obsession turned to gunfire. The first officers from the St. Cloud Police Department arrived to a house that was quiet from the outside, but lethal on the inside. They went to the front door and tried to make contact. The answer was gunfire. The father opened up on them, not a warning shot, but rounds fired at the police who had come to help. In an instant, a domestic call became an active shooting, and a quiet residential street became a place where an officer could be killed for standing in the wrong spot. They fell back, and the neighborhood turned into something no one who lived there ever imagined. Officers took cover behind neighbors' houses and behind their own cars. Residents looked out their windows to see men crouched in their yards, with their weapons trained at the house next door. Their safe street had turned into a shooting gallery. Police still needed to see inside to find Lizvette. They had no idea what had happened to her or what they were dealing with. So they flew a drone up to the front door, a small set of mechanical eyes sent in so a human being wouldn't have to be. The drone took fire as well. Jose turned his weapon on anything that came toward that house, alive or not. That left officers with the hardest situation in police work. A barricaded man, armed, willing to shoot at police, alone inside with a woman whose condition no one could confirm. Move in fast, and they could lose officers and still arrive too late. Wait too long, the person they were trying to save might already be gone. There was no clean option, only degrees of bad and worse. The 2 people who mattered most in that equation were already out. The children had escaped, one getting the other clear of the gunfire to the safety of a trusted neighbor. And then the daughter did something that shaped the entire response. She started handing investigators the truth, who her father was, what weapons were in the house, what had been building for weeks, the jealousy, the paranoia, the hidden recorders. On the worst night of her life, she drew the officers surrounding that house a precise picture of exactly what they were walking into. With the children safe and the standoff settled into the long, grinding work of trying to end it without any bodies, police surrounded the house. The standoff went on for hours. Hours of a house under guns. Hours of a neighborhood holding its breath. And through it all, The department reached for the one tool that ends more of these altercations than any weapon ever has: a voice. They brought in a crisis negotiator, a Spanish-speaking one, someone who could talk to Jose in his own language, someone who could relate to his lived experience. A negotiation isn't an argument to be won. It's a temperature to be lowered, finding the part of a person that's still relatable, still human, still reachable, and holding on to it for as long as it takes. In this case, that meant hours on the phone, keeping a man with a gun talking instead of shooting. Slowly, it worked. There was no more need for gunfire. And the thing that finally brought him out wasn't the trained voice on the phone. It was one of his own children, reaching into that house to the man that had caused it all. Shortly after that call, Jose agreed to give up. He walked out the front door and was taken into custody without another shot fired. The street that had been turned into a neighborhood shooting range finally went quiet. When police went inside, they found the thing that everyone had been dreading. They found Lizvette in a bathroom. Unfortunately, it was too late. Her fate had been sealed hours earlier when her child made that first call to 911. During the incident, no one had been able to reach her, and everyone feared the worst. That's the arithmetic of a barricade. Sometimes the outcome is already fixed before the first officer arrives, and everything after is the slow work of confirming it. Investigators went to work piecing together what had set the night in motion. There was no affair. There was only a man who had decided his wife was guilty and wired his house to prove it. The recorders he allegedly hid to catch her cheating captured only the sound of a marriage he was already destroying. The case moved from the crime scene to the courthouse, and in December of 2024, State Attorney Andrew Bain's office brought it before an Osceola County grand jury. The grand jury indicted Jose Otero-Fontanez, first-degree murder with a firearm for the death of his wife, 2 counts of attempted first-degree murder of a law enforcement officer for firing on the officers who came to help. And as of this moment, he has pleaded not guilty and is entitled to the presumption of innocence. The rest of this story will be decided by a trial, but some of it is already settled, and no verdict will ever change it. The first phone call that brought the police to the house came from one of his children. The last phone call, the one that finally brought him out the front door, came from one of his children as well. And in between, a daughter told the police the truth when no one else could, and carried a sibling to safety through the sound of gunfire. He wanted to punish a betrayal that never happened. But the only traitor in that house was him.